One of the key elements you require to thrive as an empath, as a neurodivergent, sensitive person in the world, is to have a sense of safety in your body. Do you feel safe to be you? Or is somewhere the way you show up in the world a reflection of you not feeling safe, not having that trust innately about just living and being in the world? Oftentimes we talk about this thing about being, right? That you've got to be willing to be more. And everything that you create from a space of rush or a space of need to do or an underlying feeling of lack or necessity, it has a different energy to it than if you were taking those actions from a place of true relaxation, true trust, true knowing. And one of the elements among all that I found to be a really missing piece for me personally, and it came out in a big way in 2022, was having a sense of safety in your body. We all live life in the way that we do, have our own experiences, have our own ways of dealing with the experiences and awarenesses that are there in our space all the time. Most of us were never really educated on our awareness. We weren't even acknowledged for our awareness. So that there is this whole aspect of you that you haven't yet really acknowledged, started tapping into, and reaped the advantage of. I mean, that's the last thing, right? To begin with, you've got to start embracing your capacities as gifts. Start being curious about and educating yourself on how do I function. And once you start walking that path of what if this thing that I assume to be wrong about me, or maybe was even told was wrong about me, is actually a strength that hasn't yet been harnessed because I wasn't ever educated about this subject being or this topic being a strength at all. So it's really, really fascinating for me. A couple of years ago, I've shared the story here. I don't know if you've heard it yet, but you will now. A couple of years ago, I was like 10, 15 years into core, deep inner work, working in the field of helping people create change from within, transformations from within, show up as the person that they most want to be and somewhere already are. And I started getting panic attacks. I had a total nervous system collapse. And for 6 months, I was in this space that is literally called a shutdown of the nervous system, in a way that my body was perceiving any situation to be a threat. And when you're in such a survival mode, survival and thrival don't really go together, you see. Survival is, by the very essence of it, an energy that is centric to living in a way that is reactive to that energy. Thriving, however, requires you to have a level of relaxation in your space, have a level of ease in your body, in your energy field, that allows you to show up as the best version of you. But if you're not feeling safe in your body, if your body somewhere is holding on to some stuck energies, they could be coming up from traumas that you received growing up. They could be coming up through injuries that you had as a kid that were not addressed. They could also be just coming up from the abuse of being in a world that doesn't allow you to be. Have you noticed? Most of us grew up in a world, in an environment where we were always told what is the right thing to be, what's the right thing to do, what's the right thing to choose, how's the right way to show up. And so when we get so caught up in that notion of wanting to fit in to that which is the right, it is an abuse that we perpetrate on ourselves. And so somewhere we hold on to all these energies in our body. And for me, on my journey, my mental health journey, that really, really got so loud in 2022, I discovered a mix of all of that. I discovered there were childhood injuries that I hadn't addressed. There were trauma, like physically my body was holding on to from a lot of intense treatments for years and years and years that went on after my an accident that I had as a kid. And a part of it was coming from that. A part of it was coming from a trigger experience that showed up in my world just a few short weeks before I had my first ever panic attack, which back then I didn't know it's a panic attack. Back then I thought something's totally, absolutely gone wrong. I was like in a total shutdown, extreme protection mode. And panic attack is literally that you're so deep in the survival mode. And it's not so much mental. I mean, there are aspects of it, but literally physiologically, your body's not feeling safe. And that's what essentially also anxiety is, right? And panic is like an extreme form of that. And so one of my triggers was also something that occurred in my personal life. Someone very dear to me had a health scare that really triggered a lot of trauma response, which was also super suppressed from some of the childhood experiences that I'd had. And so like, I'm really discovering more and more and more and more experientially, especially over the last 2 years, how important it is to include our bodies and the ways in which our body communicate on the journey with us. And the way that our body communicates is through feeling of emotional pain, feeling of physical pain, feeling of intensities. That's how our bodies communicate with us. And so if you are an empath, if you are like a sensitive person, if you are someone that is so aware of and sometimes even impacted by the noise that's going on around you, if it's hard for you to watch the news these days, or if it's hard for you to sort of tap into what are the heavy stuff that's going on in the world, chances are, first of all, that you are neurodivergent, whether you know it or not. You know, like for example, I did not know that I have I'm a highly functioning autistic person until like in my early 30s and stuff. And then everything made sense. And so many times these things that are labeled as they are labeled as a disorder, right? Autism spectrum disorder, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, obsessive compulsive disorder, everything, all of these kind of things that don't fit in the norms or acceptable aspects of being in the world, they are labeled as disorders. And so often those labels in itself really devoid us from having that generative, thriving conversation about, okay, cool, wait, this is how I function. What's right about this? How do I function? How does it work for me? And so when there are aspects of us that do not really fit into the general norm, quote unquote, and I'm saying norm in quotes because we often define norm to be something that's good, but by its very definition, norm is something that most people are choosing. That's normal. Anything that majority is not choosing is not normal. So just because they're not normal, some of our aspects, some of the ways in which we function might be considered as disorder in the world. But I invite you to be curious about that, because are they? What if they are all just different abilities that haven't yet been tapped into or harnessed? And that's a huge part of the work that I do, because that's a huge part of work that I did with myself. I had to get over my point of view about how being an empath means that somewhere I am, I'm at the effect of everything that I'm aware of. I had to get over the point of view that being ADHD means I'm wrong, that I'm not consistent with things, or that it's hard for me to focus, and turning all of that into a wrongness. I had to get over all that point of view of myself to even start creating my life, my business, this work that I get to do and contribute to in the world. I had to get over a lot of those limited points of views that come from the ways that these labels are defined in the world, and really start having a different conversation, because everywhere everything that you are was turned into a disorder or something that's wrong or not normal, not acceptable, not something that normal people do, which is basically to say not something that most people are doing. Everywhere that was done, it's an abuse. It's a very subtle form of abuse, but it is a really powerful form of abuse too that a lot of us are holding on to in our bodies. And so we stop feeling safe to be ourselves. On my journey, one of my biggest takeaways, and which was very unpleasant to look at, was how I do not feel safe to be myself, even among what I've always considered my closest of friends and even my family. That I intentionally shut some aspects of me down because I know I will not be received for them. I will maybe be not in a way that, not in a demeaning way, but maybe I'll be mocked upon for them, and I don't want that. I will want to receive that energy because somewhere I've made that real in my world too. I've turned that whatever thing as a wrongness that I then avoid. So I had to really look at this for myself as well, that, oh my gosh, am I not feeling safe? Am I feeling safe to be myself in front of like camera here? Which I'd had to work around too. I know a lot of people when they look at me now, because I have a lot of ease doing lives. I have a lot of ease showing up on video, but I didn't always. I cannot even tell you. I was like way opposite of that. And so developing a sense of safety, a sense of vulnerability with yourself is one of the core gifts that you can give yourself that would create the platform from which you can actually thrive. Not the kind of, I need to rush and I need to get this done kind of fuzzy energy, because we can create from one point of view, create success from that space as well. But if you were to include inner peace in the equation of success, what would be true success for you? And where can you allow yourself to start receiving the feeling of safety, which is basically that sense of relaxation? And if you were anything like me, like I had a hard time relaxing. It's changing now. For the last 2 years, I've been bit by bit cultivating a different practice in my space as well. But if you are in that space or have ever been where relaxing is hard for you or doesn't come with a lot of ease, it's worth looking. What are you not feeling safe with? Do you feel safe in showing up in the world? Do you feel safe just being yourself? Do you feel safe with putting yourself out in the world? And it's all of those places where you are not that we can unlock something that has been holding us back. So I think this is a conversation that's ought to be had. I will be adding a lot of nervous system regulation sort of services in my business this year, because that's exactly what last 2 years of my life have been about. And I'm like, oh, this is the missing piece. Every time I wasn't able to get to the present moment, it's because somewhere biologically, in a very neurological way, in a very neurologically wired way, I wasn't able to be present, because it's literally a trauma response that your body's holding on to. And a lot of that is not cognitive. A lot of that is coming from experiences you had that you don't even remember. A lot of them might be coming from even injuries you had that you thought you physically healed from, because visually it looks like you have, but somewhere your body is still holding on to the trauma that it underwent. And so what does it take to release that? Because if you truly want to access your inner wisdom, if you truly want to access that space of relaxation for you, you've got to start choosing some regulation practices. So I'm very excited that I'll be starting some really fun stuff around this topic soon. But just today I wanted to share this with you because I'm actually enrolled in one of the programs where I'm educating myself deeper on this whole nervous system regulation practice. For anybody curious, it's by the Polyvagal Institute by Dr. Porges, who's at the leading edge of a lot of this work in the modern world. And so anyway, I'm just so excited that I get to do this work. I'm so grateful to myself that I walked that journey, because it was hard. I'm not gonna lie. When shit hits you in the face like that, it's very hard. I get that. And I also know that hard is also a point of view, because I had to get over the point of view of this is so hard and embrace that, oh my gosh, there's got to be a gift in this. Universe, show me the gift in this. And that's what sort of got my ball rolling into what I consider to be the biggest transformation of my adult life. So Anywho, I just wanted to hop in here to share a little bit of what I was looking at, wondering about just before I hit live. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask me. I'd love to speak to that, or maybe create a video for you on a topic that might be relevant in your world right now. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you again tomorrow. Remember, I'm on a 101-day self-love challenge where I have taken 5 to actually 6 insidiously, because I've grouped together 2 of those daily choices, but basically 5 daily choices for myself, just because I want to honor me, just because I want to practice having a loving relationship with myself in a different way. And one of them is doing a daily live. So you will be seeing me here more often over the next many days. And so I would love to use this as an opportunity to get to contribute to you as well. So if you have any topic you would like me to speak on, please feel free to send me a message, DM me, and I'd love to hear from you. Until tomorrow, bye-bye.